Hey guys, what's up? It's just Connor here. Hope you have an amazing day. In today's video, I want to talk about some thoughts, conclusions, and just in general about the film that I watched recently today, which, as the title would probably say, I guess my thoughts on Oppenheimer, right? You guys are probably familiar with it. You've probably seen it. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, right? But it's been quite popular the past couple of weeks, about last month, right? A very, very brilliant man who created the atomic bomb, right? Some would say a genius, right? And so I had two events mainly that I could severely relate to. I know that might sound crazy. I'm not calling myself a genius, but I'm calling the experiences of a genius similar to what an entrepreneur experiences, right? Similar to what someone would experience getting into the make money online space, and how it ties together quite well. And I wanted to share my experience and how it closely ties to, I guess, the events of the movie. And really, at the end of the day, just for anyone that's watching this video to understand that it is okay to feel the way that you are probably feeling. It is common to experience the experiences that you're experiencing, and to let you know what might happen if you do embark on a journey of entrepreneurship, doing something different than the masses, right? Doing something that the 10% do and the 90% don't, right? So without further ado, let's start talking about it. So there's really two events that I want to kind of talk about that really was almost like a flashback for me. Watching it, I almost got emotional because, it took me back to the very good old days, right? 4 years ago. And there was a scene, it was between Robert Oppenheimer and a friend of his who actually lived quite close to him. And Robert and his wife were having an argument, right? Because, Robert obviously was quite obsessed with his work. And also he's a genius. So a lot of his ideas are what people can't see, right? He's birthing something into reality that does not exist yet, right? And so he was over at his friend's place. And he said, they were talking about how, Robert's quite embarrassed to make the ask to take care of his newborn child for a while, because obviously he can't, because he's out there working on his, big project of creating the atomic bomb, right? And his friend, I can't remember the name, he said, obviously Robert was quite embarrassed. And his friend said, I'm going to probably botch this quote, but he said something similar along the lines of, Robert, you need to understand, a mind like yours must be okay with the consequences of seeing what does not exist, right? Or seeing what doesn't exist in its current reality. And no, it might sound crazy to relate my experiences, or maybe potentially your experiences, to a genius, but it is true, right? When you delve into entrepreneurship, when you try to make money online, you are doing something that is completely different to than that of at least 95% of the world, probably more, right? You're doing something different from the masses, right? And essentially what you're doing when you're building a business, when you are doing something that no one's seen before, right? You're taking a vision that you pictured up in your mind and you're birthing it into reality, right? You're creating something that does not exist yet. Right? It's created up here, right? And you bring it into reality, right? As I think Conor McGregor says it best, like if you can hold it up in your mind, you can hold it out into reality, something like that. And I've found that to be one of the toughest experiences in remote sales, in entrepreneurship, trying to do something different than the rest of, I guess, the masses, right? And I want you to know, if you are going through that is okay, right? It is going to be tough. It is going to be rough, right? People will not believe in you. People will not understand. You will sound delusional, right? My parents, love them as I do, right? They didn't understand. And how could they, right? You're doing something that is so different from the norm. It is incredibly difficult for the normal person to understand, right? They're going to project at you. They're going to throw stones, right? They're going to talk shit about you behind your back. And you have to understand that is just nature doing its course, right? For me, when I went through this journey, and the reason why it was so distinct when Robert's friend said this to him, was for me that generally is what you're going through, right? Any entrepreneur, salesperson, you're birthing something that doesn't exist into reality, right? You're creating your mind, essentially, right? I lost my 3-year relationship at the time. I lost a few friends as well. And I was isolated for almost over a year, right? The big thing to understand with making money online, doing something different, starting your own business is, again, right? You're doing a almost impossible task, right? Many people have done this for many, many years, right? They've taken something from nothing, right? They've created something up in their mind and brought it into reality. But you have to understand that it takes a lot of sacrifice, it takes a lot of resources, and it takes a lot of energy, right? And paired with that is you're going to have to understand you have to be almost delusional about your success, right? This is something that you really must understand. I can vividly picture in my mind the exact moment that I was telling my parents that I would hit $40,000 a month in my marketing agency. They already knew that I was successful with sales, but I could see on their faces, right? Love my parents as I do. I looked delusional. I sounded crazy, right? Because it doesn't yet exist yet, right? And you have to get used to that feeling. You have to get used to people doubting you. You have to get used to people not understanding, right? Because they won't, right? 99% of people will never understand what you do. They just won't, right? Because if you're watching my videos, you're most likely an entrepreneur. You're someone who's looking to do something different. You're looking to do something for yourself. And it's going to be difficult, right? And so I guess my main takeaway with that little piece there is that, again, when you do something different, it's going to be tough. You're going to have setbacks. People are going to doubt you. Because, again, always comes back to that same thing I said earlier, right? What Oppenheimer's friend said to him: a mind like yours must be okay with the consequences of seeing what does not exist, right? To everyone else, you will seem insane until you are successful, right? It's really, really key. Now, my second point is, I think it was Albert Einstein who said to Robert, and they had a conversation by the pond. It was right at the end of the film. And Einstein said, again, something that really, really, really hit me. He said, Robert, it's time to deal with the consequences of your success, right? There is a flip side of the coin. You will get this in the beginning, not only in the beginning, but when you succeed. When you are successful, things will continue to change. It has its pros, it has its cons, right? Yes, the pros absolutely outweigh the cons. I can tell you that from experience. But from experience, right, going from working for $30 an hour Australian, it's about like 20 USD in a retail store, to doing 10 to 15K a month as a closer, right, all the way up to 25K a month, right, traveling in Bali. And $40,000 a month in my marketing agency and doing what I'm doing now with the RSA, right? I have still experienced drawbacks, right? People still doubt you. People still talk behind your back, right? People will still throw stones. You lose friends, right? You have to isolate yourself from others because they genuinely do not understand the way that you think, right? You have a bigger vision, right? People will frown upon you because you are successful. I guarantee you that, right? Nobody's clapping for you at the start. Some people clap for you when you actually are successful, but they're not cheering you. At least not most will, right? And so it's really, really important that you find a circle of friends, you find a circle of people that are on the same mission, vision, and journey as you. Because I guarantee you, once you become successful, whether it's with high ticket sales, your own business, whatever you're doing, you will receive drawbacks, right? And that's why I'm very private about what I do now, because I don't really want people to know that. In fact, I would much rather people don't. And I would much rather people really not know anything about it, what I do as far as like success and things like that. In fact, most times nowadays, I probably downplay it, right? Say I do something else. Say I don't run my own business, right? Because there's this weird thing that you get with most people, not all, but the vast majority, where there's a constant feeling in the room. And you can tell. It's almost like a vibe. I can't really describe it. A frequency that's kind of just in the room, right? When you're around people who are not as successful as you, which is not a bad thing in any way, shape, or form, but when you start to become more successful, how do I explain this? When you start to become more successful, people who aren't where they want to be start to project, right? Throw stones behind your back, right? They start to act differently, right? They start to treat you differently, right? And so this is something that you've got to be ready for, right? So I'm not telling you that success sucks. Success does definitely not suck, right? Well, what I'm trying to tell you is, my takeaway from Oppenheimer is every person that does something great, right? If you were born to become great, which I know I was, right? And maybe you're watching this video and maybe you are too, right? You're going to have to be okay with the consequences of seeing what somebody can't see before it happens. And then you have to be okay again with the consequences that also come with succeeding with your goals, with what you're looking for. Because people will tear you down, people will project, people will talk behind your back, you will lose friends, right? So I guess my main takeaway from this video again is just to share from experience that I think, obviously what Oppenheimer did was, obviously very profound. But both sides have consequences. They always do, right? And the big thing here as well is you have to choose your hard. Being broke is hard. Being wealthy is hard, right? Being fat and lazy is hard. Being fit and healthy is hard, right? Everything has its consequences. Everything has its hard. But you have to pick the lane of vehicle that you want to be in. Do you want to be successful or unsuccessful? Both are hard, right? It's up to you. But for me, I think if I can share my experience with anyone, maybe you get some takeaways, maybe you get some insights from this video, maybe you learn something, and maybe you're just a little bit more prepared for whether or not you're at the beginning of your process. Maybe you are already successful and you already experienced some of the things I spoke about. Amazing. Hopefully you got some insights, guys. Hopefully you got some key takeaways. This one was quite from the heart, from experience. So hopefully you can share that with me. Hopefully you can get some key takeaways. And yeah, hopefully someone watches this and helps them out, at least to some degree. Okay? So sweet, guys. Going to be some very, very cool trainings that are going to be released this week. Potentially a full sales call. Potentially an hour presentation. Who knows? You guys might be in for a good treat. So hope you have had an amazing week, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.